clearly think that the founding fathers who started this country probably were decent Christians, or at least spiritual people, who would balk and shudder at what it's become, and at the hypocrisy of anybody that claims. I mean, we have a nation of people that are not active, that are not enjoying their lives, that don't even know who their neighbor is. Does that sound Christ-like? Not so much. So anyway, that was my thought on what you had said.
I think really interesting fact about our founding fathers is that while from biographies and documents they've left for us to read, many of them were spiritual, but very few of them were actually Christian. In fact, a majority of them rallied against Christian beliefs.
Oh, I agree with you. I'm not saying that they were puritanical Christians who went around and knocked on doors and all that, but the way in which they lived their life, the speeches that they made, the memoirs that they left, they had a definite spiritual Christian ethos that they actually lived by, not something that they touted.
Actual Christian, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the difference. Is the difference between the people that are running the country and the control groups that are managing the airwaves that tout themselves as Christian, and then the real thing. And so I just want to make a distinction between those two, because I think there is a difference that's worth noting. That you have people that, regardless of what they claim as their faith, are Christian-like, or Buddhist-like, in that they kind of try and walk the walk of the Buddha or the Christ or the Krishna, etc. And then you have everybody else that's sort of playing on this, or they're fans for the team, but they don't actually do anything with it. They're the people on the sidelines that are watching everybody else kind of live that life and think that it's really cool entertainment, but then don't go and put that into practice. They're the sideliners in their faith, and I think that unfortunately there's more of them than there are the real deal, and they're the ones that are in control.
Go to friends' churches and experienced people in mob form, speaking in tongues, waving their arms in the air. There was one church I went to that was like 25 people, and we walked into the church, and all the chairs were in a circle, and there was one in the middle, and the one in the middle was for me. And they just began religiously interrogating me. When I first moved to San Diego, there was a book signing happening by Neil Donald Walsh, who wrote the Conversation with God series, and the first book was the only one I knew of at the time, and I really appreciated the book. So Scott and I said, we're going to this definitely, and we went, and it was at this church, but it was very different from all the churches that that I had seen before in my life. So I saw all these different kinds of churches, and then I walk into this place, the Pacific Church of Religious Science, a member of the United Church of Religious Science. Had no idea what that was or what it meant, but we liked it so much because we saw people actually engaged with one another. Either people crying, hugging, laughing. And the topics that Reverend Kathy spoke about were things that were on my mind, and they didn't have the Jesus branding or any other religious branding on it. It was just talking. It was just talking about the real stuff of life. And it was also interesting to me that roughly 2/3 of the congregation of 2,000 people every week were homosexual, because that showed me not only that people that were gay, that were being honest with themselves in their life, that is kind of a spiritual awakening, and we were all sharing in that in our own different ways. And but Reverend Kathy Hearn could be confused as a Christian, and my mentor Matt Russo, he is a Christian, and he and his wife don't wear crosses.
I think it's interesting the way people act on their beliefs. You know, I'm always interested in that. That's my new little hobbyist study. How do you act on your belief? You know what I mean? For instance, a lot of Christians wear crosses around their necks. Nice sentiment. But do you think when Jesus comes back, he's going to want to see a fucking cross? Ow. Kind of like going up to Jackie Onassis with a rifle pendant on, you know? Just thinking of John, Jackie. We love him. Trying to keep that memory alive, sweetie. Maybe that's why Jesus hadn't shown up yet, man. He's up in heaven going, Dad, they're still wearing crosses. I'm not going. Fuck it. No, they totally missed the point. No, fuck it. No way, man. No. Okay, I'll go back as a bunny, but I'm not. Hey, aren't you Jesus? No, I'm a fucking rabbit. Shut up. Here's a chocolate egg. That's about all you can handle spiritually right now. Could y'all evolve by next Easter? This suit is real fucking itchy. Okay. I'm Jesus the bunny. I'm Jesus the bunny.
And she pointed out, like, people that do that are really just trying to be part of a club, but they're not really having a relationship with their God. And so they're just the real deal. And I have met a very small amount, I can count on one hand, of that people that were the actual thing, and they are hard to miss. But I think that it's also just a brand name for religion that's just referencing the same thing that we're talking about right now. And so that's a view I have on that. You know, just God is much, much bigger than religion.
Well, I think absolutely. 14 billion years ago, life began from an instant of nothingness, and only in the last, 3, 4, 5,000 years has the concept of God even entered the mind of man, and been written about in language, and it's, usually involved sacrifice and murder and bloodshed and believing in, the holy shoe or whatever the case may be. But it's curious to me that it's the greatest concept, arguably, that man's ever created, or that's ever come to the light of the mind of man, and that is this notion of what is God.